up, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Between the Cons. My name is Chris, and with me today, the Ginger Giant. Oh my God. That actually hurt in my headphones. Like, I cannot imagine how much I'm going to have to fix that.
It's what the Ginger Giant does, you know?
I just love the fingers. Like,
I have to do the hand motions. At some point, we'll take a video of how I do it, and we'll put it on Facebook or something, but I, attack the microphone as I do it. I'm pretty sure it's a winning...
Like the Boogeyman.
It's a winning intro.
Like the Boogeyman.
People listen to this podcast because of that intro.
That's exactly why. It has nothing to do with the content.
Not at all.
Just the intro of your episodes. Anyways, thanks to everybody that's hit us up on the internet this week. Twitter, Facebook, Instagrammers. Big shout outs to all you people.
Love you guys.
And of course, everybody that's left a review on the iTunes store. We appreciate that as well. If you haven't done that, please do it because it's real cool and we like it. And it helps us know what we need to do to improve. Or
suggestions.
Just lets us know that we're doing a good job.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. But yeah, we're coming in with some Topic Thunder today. So it's going to be real fun, real interesting, real listy.
Lists.
Yeah. Because we're going to be talking about the top 4 and the top 4. That was not how I wanted to say that.
Nope.
The top 4 most underrated superheroes and top 4 most underrated villains in the Marvel and DC universes, in our opinion. And honestly, I don't know. Like, it's a very fine line between most underrated and most, like, least known.
Sure. Yeah.
And at least for the villains, I think the villains are, like, ride pretty hard on the least known line.
Right. You had to explain a lot to me before we recorded this episode.
But either way, they're still underrated.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But I think they're all good. I think it's a good list. So let's stop talking about it and just talk about it. Let's get into Topic Thunder.
So the first hero we want to start with today is Daredevil. Daredevil, definitely an underrated superhero, probably because of the
blindness.
Well, blindness, but also the original, maybe the first screen adaptation of him with Ben. Love Ben, sort of.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. You mentioned him several episodes back about that super awesome action sequence in that movie that was sort of the only redeemable...
Like the blind, or not blind vision, the
sensory...
blind sight. That's what it's called. Yeah.
So he was fighting in the rain?
Well, no, he was in Wilson Fisk's, like, office building, and he set off the sprinkler system so he could see, and it was so...
That was dope.
So dope. And it gave us a really good launch pad into what we see now, where, like, the world on fire kind of thing in Netflix's adaptation of Marvel's Daredevil.
Yeah. So if you don't know anything about what we're talking about, if you haven't seen that movie or the Netflix series, we'll just give you a quick rundown of who Daredevil is.
Why Daredevil is underrated.
Right. He has superhuman touch. He can feel ink on a page, or pressure changes.
Yeah. Most people can feel ink on a page. What? That's crazy. Like, the way I think of that is mainly because I use gel pens.
Right.
So, like, the ink that actually, like, seeps into the page and doesn't, like, sit on top like the ballpoint. Mm-hmm. Like, he can feel, like, that kind of, like, incredibly slight difference.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah. That gives him, like, peak strength, speed, reflexes, agility, endurance. His superhuman touch gives him that. He also has superhuman smell. He can detect odors from an atmospheric concentration of 30 to 1 million parts.
Yeah. Nuts.
Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy enhanced tracking and illusion awareness. What we just mentioned, blind sight. He is blind, if you don't know anything about him. That happened from an accident.
Some radioactive goop got in his eyes.
Got in his eyeballs. Don't know why I said it that way. He also has superhuman hearing. He can hear people whispering through soundproof walls. Makes him a really good lie detector.
Hearing heartbeats and things.
Right. He has sonar sense. Super cool.
Yeah, that's not the worst.
Not the worst thing to have. And lastly, he has superhuman taste, balance, telepathy, radar sense, and proximity sense. So he doesn't really have eyes, but he can see better than all of us.
Yeah. Like one of the coolest things about Daredevil to me is like you see a lot of heroes, a lot of superheroes that have, or supervillains even, that have like superhuman speed or superhuman agility, like Spider-Man, for example, perfect example of the agility. He has superhuman agility, and
Right.
he's incredibly agile because of what happened from the radioactive spider bite. But Daredevil, his agility, reflexes, endurance, strength, speed, all of that comes from he is so in touch with like his superhuman touch ability that he can control his central nervous system.
Right.
I'm going to say that again. He can control his central nervous system, so he can numb himself to pain.
Crazy.
And like that's so dumb. But he can push his body so far. Like that's how he became so strong. Is he can push his body so much farther than anyone else can without hurting himself, because he can control every part of his body, including like internal organs. Like he can move around his internal organs just by like thinking about it.
Yeah. And I think both the comics and the movie and the TV shows sort of demonstrate that by showing him taking a physical beating all of the time. He uses close-up weapons.
Yeah.
He doesn't have
ranged
weapons. He's using 2 batons basically.
Yeah,
and
the most ranged it comes is he'll throw it like across the room at somebody.
Yeah, and they're cool and they like bounce and stuff, and they've got their own properties that sort of give him a little bit more range, and that's cool. But he is in the middle of getting beat up by Fisk, taking on droves of minions coming at foot ninjas,
or hand ninjas,
and being able to stay in the fight longer than all of them because he can control that central nervous system. So definitely an underrated superhero.
Yeah. And definitely related to the history, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's always been a real spotty character in the comics too. I mean, even he's been around for a long time, and he didn't really catch on until Frank Miller picked up The Man Without Fear in 1984. I'm throwing that number out. I might be wrong. Don't hate me, internet. So ever since he got picked up by Frank Miller, it kind of revamped Daredevil as a character. But even still, since then, he's had really spotty storylines.
Right.
So he's a really tough character on paper. But I think that the Marvel Netflix show has done a lot for his character. Definitely instilled a lot of grace towards Daredevil,
right?
Especially on screen since the Ben Affleck travesty,
right?
In the 2000s.
Mm-hmm. His backstory is cool. His dad was a boxer. He himself is a lawyer, and so he's also very mentally tough and for the people, and is a man's man sort of. So yeah, there's just a lot to like about him, I think.
Yeah, and one of the things is that put him on this list is he's got powers. Like he's got like real powers, and a lot of what we see kind of mainstream media is he's just like a good fighter.
Right.
And he's been blind for a long time, so he knows how to like hear his way through sight, or see his way through hearing, I guess. Mm-hmm. But he's got legit powers, and I think that's what makes him an underrated superhero for sure.
For sure.
The next one is actually DC. Justice League member, no doubt. No diggity, no doubt.
No diggity.
No doubt. John Johns, the Martian Manhunter. Literally a Martian. Like, not a Not just a cool name.
When I saw him on this list, I pictured Marvin the Martian. Like the
Yeah, that's him.
Where's my XP2000 space modulator?
From the Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, Marvin Manhunter.
Yeah, that's it.
No, but he's literally a Martian. He's the green guy in that's not wearing a ring in the Justice League.
Right.
But the craziest thing about him is he has so many like quote powers, but they're really just like traits because he's a Martian. But he can shapeshift. He has invisibility, phasing, strength, stamina, regeneration, flight, speed. He has like superhuman breath, which is crazy. So like he can like blow a hurricane at you, which is bonkers. He's got like I think 3 or 4 different kinds of like superhuman vision. So he's got heat vision, telescopic vision, microscopic vision, which is super cool.
That's super cool.
Like I have trouble seeing like street signs, much less like 4 blocks away.
My wife takes my glasses sometimes and hides them from me, and it's a terrible joke.
And it's a not good time. But he also has telepathy, telekinesis, and that's like high level. Like naming a few high level powers, but like within some of those, like telepathy and telekinesis, like he has like more concentrated powers within those. Mm-hmm. And like psionic blasts and things like this, and it's just like the dude is insane. Like he is such a strong force to be reckoned with, and he is a background character for the Justice League.
Why do you think he has not gotten the upfront credibility of other mainstream DC characters?
I think it's his demeanor. I mean, he's literally a Martian.
Right.
So, like, I think they wrote him as, like, a beep-bop alien.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I went bop-bop.
Beep-bop. That's more like robot.
Robot. Beep-bop, robot, alien. I am a Martian. You
so
sound
people...
like a robot. But, no, he's... I mean, he just is written very differently. And he's written kind of, like... asocially.
Okay.
So I think that has a lot to do with it, but at the same time he's also like a really great supporting character. Mm-hmm. Just because of those exact same reasons. One of the really cool things though is he's getting a lot more credit than usual lately because he's in Supergirl.
Right.
So David Harewood is playing Hank Henshaw, aka John Johns, aka the Martian Manhunter, in Supergirl, and I'll be honest with you, he doesn't look great. I don't love the way he looks. It's taken a lot of getting used to. It's bad. He kind of looks like Shaquille O'Neal from Steel.
Sure, yeah.
Except
he does. I'm looking at a picture of him right now. Yeah.
Not even green, but like greenish, like grayish green. But he's really cool. He's really stepping up in the show to kind of be like a really, really cool character. So I feel like it's bringing... though Supergirl is probably the least viewed out of the DC EU television shows.
Right.
I think that he's getting a lot of like good press through that show because they're putting him in a lot of really cool situations. And then... yeah, I think he's a really cool character. I think the JLA needs to use him some more.
Yeah, for sure. The next one we want to talk about is one we've talked about fairly significantly on the show already because we were super excited for it, and then it came out on FX, and now we're sort of blown away by it, and that's Legion. I mean, holy crap. The dude is like... 200 Omega level split personalities,
which is dumb
in his mind.
Which is dumb. So we talked like way long time ago about like what an Omega level mutant is, like what the classifications are. An Omega level is like about as baller as you can get in the mutant classifications. And this dude has 200.
200.
I just patted Kyle on the back.
Yeah. Don't know why you did that.
200 Omega level mutant split personalities in his mind. That's what?
Nuts. Rogue has been in his mind.
Yes.
And she said that while she was inside Legion, she was connected to thousands of power types. And there were more being born all the time. So it's like maybe 200 is even, it's like a growing number.
Or maybe 200 is just like the number of Omega level. And like everything else is just like...
And he's got hundreds if not thousands of more of those personalities inside of him that are expanding and growing and learning.
Yeah. It's... I cannot... I've said it so many times, but I cannot stress enough that Legion is probably the most powerful mutant, most powerful superhero of all time.
If you haven't heard anything about him or seen the show or listened to our podcast before, he's the bastard son of Professor X.
Right.
Who you would make that statement almost about him. He's one of the most powerful mutants.
Yeah, for sure.
And then he's got this son who's like a crazy person, and his storyline is kind of
multiple personality disorder.
He's a little bit like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Wow, that word's hard. Nest.
There it is.
Had to concentrate to say that.
I hope you never get a smart thermostat.
I'll never be able to control what the
Next, naps, bleps.
Just make it 66 in here.
It's hot.
I admittedly don't know a whole lot about him, but he's a character that I definitely call underrated just from what I already know, and I'm excited to hear more.
And the fact that you've never heard about him until recently.
Until the FX show, yeah. And then you tell me about him, so.
Yeah. Big props to everyone at FX that was like, this crazy person, we're going to pick this up.
That guy.
And the show's great. The show is so good. It is such a roller coaster. It all starts out with him in a crazy house, and then he gets like abducted, and you don't really know exactly what's going on, and then you find out that like these people have been watching him, and they are trying to help him identify that or realize. Yeah, let's go with realize.
Sure.
That these multiple personalities that he's been diagnosed with over the years are actually multiple like powers that he has that have like kind of overtaken him, which is kind of what it is. But he legitimately does have different personalities. His powers are classified by like different people.
Yeah. Like
Cindy, who's a pyromaniac. Like she's pyrotechnic. She can create fire.
Right.
It's crazy. But really, really cool character. I think that if anybody listening hasn't seen the show yet, I definitely suggest it. It is a really interesting watch. It is definitely a crazy show, literally. So,
in all senses of the word,
it's a wild ride for sure. The next one and last of the most underrated
heroes,
DC and Marvel heroes, is Raven. Raven is one of the members of the Teen Titans.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me personally, I grew up with Raven on the Teen Titans cartoon, which made her like the coolest character.
Be honest right now, do you have a crush on her?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But she was so emo. and it'll make sense in a second because her powers are all like empathic. But she was really emo on the show, like overly emo, like definitely written intentionally to appeal to kids that were in like the emo music scene.
Love that scene.
Yeah, but that being said, Raven's powers are psionic empathy emotion negation, empathic healing, telekinesis, and then soul self, which is a really cool thing, astral projection, teleportation, flight. So what it all kind of boils down to is she can take one of the things that I think is the coolest is that she can take like emotions and feelings, and like if you're like super sad, or like you just found out that your dog died, she can like take that from you, and you no longer feel sad, but you don't like feel bad for not feeling sad.
Right.
She just took it from you and she felt it for you.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. But the astral projection, the teleportation, the flight, like those are some of the coolest. For me, astral projection and teleportation are like two of the most hands down, like baller status superhero.
Teleportation makes sense, but explain more about what astral projection is.
Like going out of one's body.
Oh, great. Okay.
So like she can be like over here, but
like floating head doctor in Scrubs.
Yeah, like floating head doctor in Scrubs. Yeah, just like that. Nailed it. But those are like two of the coolest superpowers to me. Teleportation for sure. But I mean, telekinesis, empathic healing, like all of that, and like mind stuff,
right,
is also really, really great. Like really cool stuff. And I think that through her being a younger superhero, and through especially the Teen Titans show, they really drew that show to be like heavily driven towards children. And the thing about the Teen Titans like comics and stuff like that, yeah, they do have some of those like teenage elements, and I mean they're all teenagers, but it's also like a lot darker. So Raven being like a really emo superhero makes sense. Like she's very dark. She has this really like flat tone, at least that I like. That's how I process her voice. It's like there's this really flat tone in everything she says. Just kind of like she feels enough for other people that she doesn't feel herself, kind of thing.
Right.
But and that's super cool character.
And that personality type and those powers put together make up basically the definition of what it would mean to be an underrated superhero.
Yeah.
Like those they're not flashy like Superman with his big muscles and his American way, or Batman with his detective cool gadgets and stuff.
Yeah.
She connects to a type of person who is completely different than those people, who may not. Oh, I'm not going to be that type of person. I'm not going to be a football jock. I'm not going to be somebody in the limelight. So I don't have a superhero. Oh wait, no, you don't. You have Raven, who has all these cool special powers, like turning emo on its head a little bit and saying like, there's something special here for you who are the other, if you will, that are different than Superman and Batman.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I loved that. Go you.
Go me.
But yeah, Raven, super cool character. She's in Teen Titans. I think she's now in New Teen Titans.
New Teen Titans?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's hard to say.
That's a classy name. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for the heroes. Daredevil, Martian Manhunter, Legion, and Raven. In at least my opinion.
Those are great.
4 of the most underrated DC and Marvel superheroes.
Let's talk about some villains.
The villains. Oh, this is where it comes real close to that line of like, they're underrated because nobody knows who they are. And we're going to kick things off with Arcade from the X-Men.
Who's he?
Arcade,
or she?
Arcade is a he.
Mm-hmm.
He is basically like the Joker. He's not basically like the Joker. He's very similar to the Joker. But he's X-Men villain. He has no superhuman powers. He has genius level IQ and a natural aptitude for mechanics, architecture, and applied technology. So like that's his only like superpower, air quotes, but really they're just like he's a smart dude and he knows how to do stuff. The thing about Arcade is he is like seriously cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like this dude is nutballs. There was one story arc where he kidnapped like I think it was 16 of like the up and coming X-Men, including X-23, and
Crazy.
like stuck them all in a like what he calls a murder world, which is basically one of these things that he does with his aptitude for mechanics, architecture, and applied technology. He builds these like super messed up like amusement parks of death, torture-ness.
That sounds a lot like what the Joker would do.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. It's like it's horrifying.
Yeah.
But he kidnaps like I want to say 16 of the up and coming X-Men and puts them in here and like convinces them that he's gonna take God, I wish I could remember who exactly, but convinces him that he's gonna like kidnap this one and he's gonna use her as like kill her first, and then this other guy steps up and he's like, oh, okay, well, I guess you'll do. And then he blows him up and takes her anyway. And it's just like, what is this?
What?
This dude is insane. Like, what is happening right now? But he is such like next level bonkers. Like, and he is such a crazy villain. He's not been around much. So like, it's not a bad thing that nobody's really ever heard of him. But he is something special, and I think that he has a lot going for him on the villain side, and I think that because he's kind of always been a lesser known character, he doesn't really get what he deserves as far as credit. But
Definitely underrated.
yeah, the next one, DC,
Yeah.
is. I'm just gonna do my two and then
Yeah,
you
go for it, baby.
The next one is OMAC, DC World. OMAC is a I love OMAC. OMAC is hilarious to me. He is like the he's like the Terminator of DC.
The Terminator.
No, he's more like RoboCop. He's like he is RoboCop. Oh my gosh. OMAC is RoboCop. There we go. Underrated. Next. I'm just kidding. OMAC stands for One Machine Attack Construct, and he was designed as a unstoppable warrior, like biotech warrior. His real name is Kevin Coe. He was a part of of some like crazy project called Project Cadmus that just went all crazy, and now he's OMAC. Or part of the time he's OMAC. It's kind of like Shazam, and
Right.
and the little boy. Oh my gosh, this is gonna drive me nuts. Billy Brooks, Billy something. I can't remember. Kyle's gonna look it up and let me know why I'm dumb. But it's kind of like Shazam. So he says "Omactivate," which is like the cheesiest thing I've ever heard. That's like Yo Joe for G.I. Joe. It's like Yo Joe.
That'll get the team going.
Yeah, it was great. But when he does do his Omactivate thing, he becomes this like biotech thing, and it's really cool. He has like really superhuman strength, superhuman durability, energy projection, which is really cool. He has like all of these. He does this one thing where it like slams down. But anyways, he's a really cool character, and he's been coming around a lot more lately. His first appearance was at least in Prime Earth, I think, was in like 2011. So he's a really interesting character. I think that he's a lot of fun, but definitely does not get what he deserves in credit either.
Billy Batson was the name you were looking for.
Sorry, Mr. Naughty List.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's cold.
I am so Billy Brooks. Now that I say it, or now that I know it, Billy Brooks was like a friend of mine in like 3rd grade.
Oh, nice.
And then he moved.
Billy. Oh, Billy.
Makes me sad. But anyways, Kyle's got the last 2.
All right. The first one I'm going to talk about is Kang.
The Conqueror.
Kang is known as the Conqueror, and a simple Google search will bring up more than you ever want to know.
Ever.
It's literally like 8 scrolls. It's
He's scrolling right now and counting.
I'm scrolling. It's at least 9 scrolls of backstory around King the Conqueror. I'm just going to read a quote from him because I think it kind of sums up who he is. Quoted from King the Conqueror, "Story is not written, scholar, and neither is destiny. History is made by the deeds of the strong, the brave, and destiny is forged. The historians, the students, the graybeards, they come in the wake of the strong and write down what the brave have done. But it is the conquerors who change the world."
And that is exactly what he does.
He's basically... he seems like he's this like historical minded scholar conqueror dude. He's been around since 1964, and his powers include anti-aging, superior level intellect, political savvy, skilled. He's a skilled combatant. He has indomitable will, neurokinetic armor,
which is awesome.
Super awesome. He has a power called Light of the Centuries.
Yeah, it's super lame, actually. It's like a crystal ball.
Love it.
It's like how he time travels. It's the light of the centuries.
And he's like a time scanner.
Yeah.
He like look back through time.
Yeah. He is a crazy character, and the craziest part about him, and the reason that his page is so long, is Kang the Conqueror is one of the only characters in like the Marvel universe, in Marvel canon, that comes up from a different universe. So like in DC we have like Earth 1, Earth 2, whatever, and like they cross over all the time and they like do stuff together, whatever weird other kind of stuff that DC likes to do. King the Conqueror is from Earth 6311. So Earth Prime for Marvel is called Earth 616. And he's one of the only characters that like crosses over often. And he comes over and like screws with stuff like all the time.
He's basically the epitome of an evil genius. He time travels.
Yeah. And let's see, who is he? I think his first...
The first was Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I think the first big thing was Fantastic Four. And he just like started messing all sorts of stuff up. He's actually related to... he's related to the Fantastic Four somewhere down the line. He goes back... Basically, his whole thing is he goes back in time to change history and to rewrite history. And like if things didn't end the way they should have, if he thinks it should have been different, he'll go back in time to change it. And it's crazy. Like
he goes back in time and poses as this character called Victor Timely.
Yep.
And there's like at least three iterations of Victor Timely throughout different decades of the 20th century.
He plays he pretends to be his own son and grandson.
Yeah. The kind of the canonical picture of him is him lounging in like a seashell with a knife balancing on his finger.
I'm gonna mess it up.
Definitely, we haven't seen him in anything like in modern movie or TV show.
Well, I think he's actually owned. The rights are owned by whoever owns Fantastic Four, Fox. Whoever owns Fantastic Four owns the rights to Kang. There were some whispers when Guardians of the Galaxy 2 first started production that Kang would be coming around. But then James Gunn shot it down pretty quickly, saying like, no, that's not going to be the case. Like, we actually don't even have the rights to Kang. But it sucks because I would have a lot of fun with that. And it's just like, yes, you would.
Well,
get it back.
And it would be... It's interesting because it would be fun to see him come around when after Infinity War, when maybe current Marvel heroes die, and new iterations of the Marvel universe as we move into the 2020s, and these actors get phased out of their characters, and maybe they do different weird time travel things or different
once Thanos
characters.
is gone, they're gonna need another big bad.
Sure.
And Kang is like the perfect.
Be a great through line
bad.
for creating different iterations of different characters and different timelines.
Yeah.
Like, so definitely a villain to be keeping our eye on.
For sure.
Because we may be seeing him really soon.
Definitely.
The last one we want to talk about is one we're pretty familiar with, but definitely underrated, and that's Killer Croc.
Yes.
And I say definitely underrated because I don't think we saw enough of him in Suicide Squad. We saw things, and he had lines, and it was kind of more in the like jokey thing.
Yeah.
He provided a little bit of humor. He provided I don't know. He was more of a background character than I wanted him to be. And I remember one of the trailers for that movie was just of Killer Croc, or it was one of the like end of credit scenes.
Yeah.
It was about him, and I wanted more.
Yeah, and they kind of made him like, I don't want to say they made him lame because he was kind of brutal, but they made him just
And-
like not so great. Like they made him more of a person, and which sounds terrible, but like Waylon Jones, the character's Killer Croc's real name, he started kind of turning into this reptilian looking creature. It's what started everything. It's called regressive atavism.
Right.
So it's basically what makes him turn into and look like a crocodile. But the biggest thing about it is he has a mental illness. So he has like clinical depression, and a lot of people think that he has like mental deficiencies as well. And I think that in the comics, he is just brutal. Like he's a brutal character.
He's got claws and fangs and superhuman durability, and he can bite through bone. And he is that like just brutal basher kind of
And they gave
villain.
They gave him all of that in the movie Suicide Squad, but it was just kind of like, I think it might have just been we just didn't see enough of him. I don't know. I was wildly underwhelmed by Killer Croc.
I definitely want to see him against another superhero to expound on that character.
Sure. Like, on his character.
Sure. He's based in Gotham. That's where he lives.
Yep.
So we could see any of the superheroes who are sort of based around in the Gotham area go up against him.
Yep.
Pretty easily. I'm sort of fascinated by him. Like, just that the complexity of what it means to be a villain and to have mental illness, and that could be expounded upon in a full feature-length film.
Yeah, and I would love to see Killer Croc and Bane go at it, because that was one thing that happened during the Arkham War storyline. They got into a big ol' fight, and it was pretty awesome. And then Killer Croc actually got thrown out of a window.
Oh.
And it was like, pretty much assumed that he died. But it was still like a really cool fight.
Right.
I probably should have brought up something different. That's the end of that
sentence. Anyway, definitely underrated.
Yeah, and a crazy, literally
Crazy dude.
I think he's a cool villain. So the villains, underrated villains: Arcade, Omac, Kang, and Killer Croc.
Yep.
And then once again the heroes: Daredevil, Martian Manhunter, Legion, and Raven. Let us know. What do you guys think? What did we leave out? Who did we leave out? Who would you say are some of the most underrated superhero villains from Marvel and DC? Let us know. Let's have a chat about it.
We can do round 2 of this maybe after we get some submissions. It'd be cool to talk about.
I'd be down.
What you think.
Or we can tell you that you're wrong.
Yeah, we can talk about how all of them are not underrated, and we don't want everyone to see them.
And they deserve to stay under the radar.
Like Condiments Man.
Like Condiment Man. Like Calendar Man, who's a real character from the Batman.
I don't know that I ever want to see that.
It's actually really cool in the what is it called? Long Halloween? Yeah. Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and the other one.
Yeah.
That came after both of those that I can't remember. But yeah. Anyways, let us know. What do you guys think? That's it for Topic Thunder. We're going to talk about some jams.
What's your jam?
So Kyle, what's your jam?
So, this is not a sports podcast.
Accurate.
However, I get really nerdy about my fantasy baseball.
Boo.
Worst sport. I think maybe I've mentioned on the podcast before, but I have been in a fantasy baseball league with like 8 of the same 12 guys since 5th grade.
Wow.
It's like our 17th season coming
Jeez.
up. Yeah. And I have always been terrible. I've always made trades for like a bad player. I traded away a really good player for a bad player, and I've never done well. Last year, I won the league. It was awesome. It was great.
So you're stepping down.
The last like 7 seasons, my team name has been the bye week.
Oh, nice.
So just living, I'm going to keep that this year. It's been great. But I did something super nerdy the other day. We do like a snake draft, so you keep 12 players from the season before, and then all the other players come into a pool, and then we have like 15 more rounds of draft at keeper league. So we like get really nerdy about up and coming players and such. So I made this whole. I spent 3 hours on a whole spreadsheet of everyone's teams, and I used ESPN's and CBS Sports Line's rankings of like how people will do in the future and match them all up on team for team, so I could see who on other people's teams were most likely to be dropped and who I could potentially be drafting this year. I spent way too long on it, and I explained it for like 45 minutes to my wife, and she fell asleep. It was not a winning conversation between my wife and I.
So what you're saying is your jam is talking your wife to sleep.
My jam is doing really nerdy stuff with spreadsheets and hopefully winning my fantasy baseball league again.
Hear, hear.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
What's your jam?
My jam is this. This is so lame. This puzzle that my wife and I got. So to be completely honest, I am not a big fan of puzzles. I do not like doing puzzles. I get really stressed out, and then I wind up getting really frustrated, and it's just not a good time for me, puzzles. We got this puzzle, though, because my wife loves doing puzzles. It's like a really great way for her to wind down. She really enjoys it, and it's great. So we got this puzzle. It is it's stained glass. It looks like a stained glass window, and it's like all these different Disney scenes. And it's super cool.
It is super cool.
The coolest thing about it is that all the pieces are plastic.
Yeah,
instead of
that cardboard paper.
Yeah. And on top of that, the image is like translucent. So let's say you put a light behind it. It would look like, let's say, stained glass. So that's really cool.
That is really cool.
So we're working on it now, and it's gonna be really cool. We're gonna hang it up in our kitchen or our dining room, because we're grown-ups and we can have whatever we want hanging in our house that we pay for.
That's art.
Yeah. So it's really cool though, because of the plastic, the pieces fit together really tightly. So like, according to what we can read on the box, which is in Japanese,
Right.
it basically like, it's plastic so you don't have to glue it. Like, once we're done, we can, in theory, pick up the puzzle
By a corner.
and have a whole puzzle hanging by that corner, which is really neat. But it's a really cool puzzle. I really like it. I can't remember what they're called though.
No, I don't either.
It's like iPop. I don't know. Just Google stained glass Disney puzzle. You'll probably see it. But they're really neat. Yeah, that's my jam.
It's a good jam.
It's a great jam. It's a grape jam.
It's a strawberry jam.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. My mouse isn't over there anymore. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you're interested in helping sponsor the show, check out Patreon, where you can... it's kind of like Kickstarter, but monthly, betweenthecons.com/Patreon. Satchel podcast player, where you can tip and tweet while listening. And, of course, our Amazon search bar at the bottom of our website. You shop, we get a little kickback. You don't pay anything extra. Our website, betweenthecons.com. You can stream all of our episodes online. You can link out to all of our social media on there as well. Really great resource for our stuff. If you like our music, check out Affixa. He's the one that makes the dope dubstep that we put in yo ears. And then make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, betweenthecons.com/subscribe for you Apple users. For you Google users, it is betweenthecons.com/Google Play. Make sure you guys subscribe so you never miss an episode. We release every Monday and every Thursday, and it's always a good time. So you guys have a great week, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys. Later.